Good morning, everyone. We're starting this week's the portion of Pinchas. I'm starting from selections from Likutei Sichos, the second talk on Pinchas. Just a short introduction. The beginning of the portion deals with a man, a grandson of Aaron, who was a zealot, and he saved the Jewish people from a larger plague. God comes this week's Torah portion, and he gives them a covenant, a forever covenant. And we know that Pinchas, the Elijah the prophet, was Pinchas. And Eliyahu is the one who's going to tell us about the coming of Mashiach. So it's a very special covenant God has made with him. But today's topic, our discussion is going to be further into the portion. We read about God ordering Moshe to divide the land into the 12 tribes, and that Levite tribes will not be receiving a part. Comes the daughter of Tzlofchad ben Chefer from the tribe of Yosef, Menashe ben Yosef from Menashe, and they have a complaint. Their father died without any sons, and they deserve, instead of a son, usually a son will get the inheritance simply because we want the portion in Israel to stay within the tribe. If a daughter inherits her father, when she marries, she becomes part of the husband, the spouse's tribe, and then it will move around. So God says inheritance of property, not goods, not tangible, not financial. Land will be moving on from father to son, not to daughter. But they felt that their father died without a son, and they want that portion. And Moshe says, let me ask Hashem. And Hashem said, yep. They are correct. They are right. The story begins in chapter 27, verse 1. And God, after he tells them about the daughters of Tzlofchad's idea that they are correct, he goes on to continue. God spoke to Moshe saying, Tzlofchad's daughters speak well, give them a double portion in the inheritance along with their father's brothers, transfer their father's inheritance to them. They got double portion because of their father's portion, in addition to their grandfather. It's not the discussion here. The time when they entered the Holy Land, people who are alive inherited, people who are dead were inheriting people who are alive, and this is an example. Tzlofchad was dead already. He's inheriting his father who is alive and his own portion. And both portions, double portion, go to Tzlofchad's daughter. But then God continues on, and this is going to be the topic of our discussion. Speak to the children of Israel, saying, if a man dies and has no son, we studied before that the son gets the inheritance. But what happens if he has no son? You should transfer his inheritance to his daughter. If he has no daughter, you should give his inheritance to his brothers. If he has no brothers, you should give his inheritance to his father's brothers. If his father has no brother, you should give his inheritance to the relative who is closest to him in his father's family, who will inherit it. This will be a statutory law for the Jewish people as God commanded Moshe. Did you understand what it says? So the law of inheritance came to us with the details because of Tzlofchad's daughters. If he has no son to inherit him, what do? You go to the brothers of the father. They get that portion. If there is no brothers, then it goes to his father. If there is no father, there is father's children, sons. And if not, a father doesn't have any sons, or he's not around, it goes up another generation. It goes up and up and up, and then that's how it's been transferred. So this way, the key here is that the land always remain within the tribe. Is that clear?
Don't you have the problem about
what?
If the daughters inherit it,
yeah,
then how does it stay within the tribe?
So the daughters do not inherit, except Tzlofchad was an exception, right?
Any case where there's no sons, the daughters inherit.
So the Torah tells us later that the tribe of Menashe, next portion, came to Moshe and said they would marry outside the tribe and move the land out of our boundaries. And Moshe, God says to Moshe, the tribe is correct, and therefore they can only inherit only if they marry within the tribe. And those 5 daughters had to marry, and they married people correct, appropriate for them. They were very holy. Rashi brings many great compliments to those daughters that God agreed with them. How many? 5 daughters. Machla, Noach, Hogla, Milcah, Tirza. There are 5 daughters. God agreed with them. This is not so simple. It doesn't happen to everybody. In addition, they were able to know exactly what God had in mind, and God was giving them a gift for adding laws to the Torah because of their initiative. But later on, daughters do not get an inheritance. Are we clear so far? This is the introduction. Now the rabbi is going to deviate. Please keep your attention because you think it's going far to a different topic, but we're going to go back to this discussion many times. I'm reading on page 429. When enumerating the mitzvot in the beginning of the Mishnah Torah, and similarly in his Sefer HaMitzvot, Rambam lists as the final positive commandment the charge to judge the laws concerning inheritance, as it is written, when a man dies without a son. Rambam is one of the very few, one of 3 that are common, who listed all the 613 commandments. What is his last mitzvah? The law of a positive mitzvah, thank you. The commandment of inheritance, to make sure that the land transfers to the son or to the brothers, but it should remain within the tribe. And Rambam brings a proof from this week's Torah portion, as it's written, if a man dies childless without a son, then it goes to his brother or to the father. Says the Rebbe, it is well known that Rambam structured his work in extremely precise order. Thus, it can be presumed that the placement for the commandment concerning the laws of inheritance as the final positive commandment was deliberate, indicating that these laws embody the most apt conclusion of the positive commandments. Says the Rebbe, Rambam did not just go by the day how much coffee he drank in the morning, and that's how he worked on different mitzvot and put them in his book. If he put it as the last one of the positive commandment, it means it's the conclusion and the most important one to conclude all of the mitzvot. And the Rabbi says, just like, the Rabbi goes on to say, just like, I'm going to skip a lot of text so we can have a good picture of the idea. Just like at the beginning of the mitzvot, he begin, the foundation of all foundation and the start of all starts is to know that there is a God. And the first mitzvah is to believe in God. That's the foundation of all. In other words, the reason he put in the first mitzvah, the believe in God, is for a purpose, because without which you have no other commandment. So there is it's not very important, it's the most important. The start of all the positive commandments is to believe in God. So is the conclusion of all the positive commandments must be very important, and the concluding point of all the positive commandments. Says Rabbi, I don't understand why. What does inheritance have to do with concluding all the positive commandments? I will address only direct to the topic.
No positive commandment came after this.
In the list of the 248, that's the last one, yes. You will find in the Torah many other commandments, positive commandments, but when he lists the 248, he concludes this as the last one. Says the Rebbe, one answer can be said that inheritance happen after life. When does inheritance law come to play? When the man dies. So you can say, oh, that's why it's the conclusion, because it's at the end of life. You give a tithe, you keep Shabbat, you give tzedakah, it's all your life. Inheritance is after you die. So that way it's not true, because there are many other commandments that apply after the person dies. There is all kinds of court order to punish people, the 4 types of executions. There are many other mitzvot that apply after the person dies. Yet Rambam chose inheritance. In addition, says Rabbi, this commandment is not applied to an individual, but to the court, the court must see that the sons only inherit, and the court must see that if there are no sons, not the daughters, but the brothers, and if not the brother, no brother, the father. If no father,
That's
the
only if there's no
grandfather.
daughter. That's
If
only
there is no daughter. Right, that's what I said, if there's no daughters. In other words, this enactment of inheritance law, the hierarchy established in this portion, is not given to an individual, it's given to the court. Just like executions is not given to an individual. Just like many other communal, the Rosh Chodesh holidays are positive commandments that were given to the court. If it's given to the court, it's nothing to do at the end of life. It's a commandment that the court must look after. And therefore, it doesn't make sense. Why is it the last one?
Is it true in all cases that the daughters inherit if there's no son?
What?
Is it true in all cases that the daughter inherits if there's no son?
No, we just addressed that.
So, in other words,
Only if they marry within
Within-
the, only if they agree to marry within the tribe.
no, but
Maybe I wasn't clear.
Yeah, really.
Rashi immediately tells us that the Torah tells us that what God allows for the Tzlofchad's daughters instead of a son, it was an exception to that generation that entered the Holy Land. Once they settled down, it took them 14 years to 7 years to conquer and 7 years to divide. There was no daughter inheriting a portion in the Holy Land, only sons. Okay?
Oh, good.
But the laws regarding inheritance appears, we just study it, that the son, if there is no son, there is a brother to the deceased. If the deceased is a single child or his brothers already died, then it goes to the father, and it goes on from the father, it goes to his children, sons only. It's only on the male side. So the Rebbe is asking, coming back to the question, why Rambam chose this commandment to be the last of the 248 commandments? Do you understand the question? Second question. Another point requires explanation, 431. As a proof text for the mitzvah to judge the laws of inheritance, Rambam cites the verse in this week's Torah portion that I just read, when a man dies without a son. Says Rabbi, on the surface, these words do not appear to communicate the theme of the mitzvah. I don't understand. What is inheritance? That a father gives his son, right? That the children inherit, only boys, not girls. What does prove? What's the source of Rambam? He quotes from this expression. If a man dies without a son, that you give it to the brothers of the man or to the father of the man. But that's unusual. That's not what the straightforward inheritance. So the question is, the Rebbe is not asking a question on the Torah. Why doesn't God begin to say, sons inherit, no daughters? Then the Torah begins, God says to Moshe, command the Jewish people that if a man dies without a son, it should go to his brothers. If he has no brothers, it should go to the father. Says Rebbe, I don't understand why Rambam, dealing with the law of inheritance, is quoting a verse that defies, that is exactly the opposite of what inheritance is about. The natural order is to go down, trickle down from father to son. The exception to the rule is there is no son, then you go to the brother, then you go to the father. Rambam quotes, and if he has no son, why is he proving the law of inheritance, which is all-encompassing, from a verse in the Torah that deals with an exception? That's the second question. Do you understand? So we have two questions. Why Rambam concludes positive commandments to inheritance? Number two, Rambam brings a quote from the district Torah portion about the law of inheritance, which is all-encompassing, all kinds of situations, from the text in the Torah. If a man dies without a son, then it should go to the brother or to go to the father, which is the exception. Rambam should have brought another verse where it deals with giving the inheritance to the son. Go ahead, what's the question?
Does a written will mean nothing?
What?
Does a written will mean nothing?
Why did you say that?
Suppose a guy dies, he has no sons, he loses the daughter.
Okay, so you are asking a side note, but I think everybody is wondering about. If someone puts in his will that he wants his daughters to receive something, so that's when it's not an inheritance, it becomes a gift. Because someone cannot make a condition against Torah law. So if he says, my daughter should inherit a section just like our brothers, it's invalid because he's going against Torah. But he can gift her. He can say to her, I would like her to have, for doing me favors, for being kind to me, my home or my vineyard and he specifies. It becomes a gift. And a gift returns back in the Jubilee. So after 50 years, depending on which land is this, but it will return back to the tribe, meaning to the borders. However, so this is out the scope of our discussion. Yes.
It will return to the tribe at the end of the life? What's the timeline? The father gives a gift to the daughters, beyond just the possessions. What's he doing?
This is not the topic of our discussion. Because it's a gift, it's not. Says the Rebbe, that the Rebbe gives an introduction to the answer. Number 3, it is possible to say, don't think that this introduction is not that valuable, not important, because as we'll see full round how powerful it is. It is possible to say that Rambam's conclusion of the listing of the positive mitzvot with the mitzvah to judge the laws of inheritance resembles the conclusion of the 6 orders of Mishnah. The Mishnah is divided into 6 categories, 6 orders. The last Mishnah is the following, which states, in the ultimate future, the Holy One, blessed be He, will bestow an inheritance upon every tzaddik, as it is written, to endow those who love me with an inheritance of substance. And the Mishnah concludes that each tzaddik will get 310 universes. What that means, we're not discussing it, but they will be bestowed an inheritance from God. For the verse said in the prophet, I have an inheritance for my beloved, those who love me. So just like the 6 orders of Mishnah is giving us a statement about an inheritance, that the righteous man God will inherit it to them, special gifts. So Rambam also wants to conclude the positive commandments, 248 commandments, with the law of inheritance. Says the Rebbe, number 4. It is, so you understand now, not only Rambam's last positive mitzvah is inheritance, also the Mishnah, 6 orders, which deal with a variety of topics, and suddenly the last Mishnah, the last words, deals of the commandment of a statement about inheritance, that righteous men will inherit by God special gifts. Says the Rebbe, it is number 4. It is possible to explain the above by first introducing the following concept. The Torah relates the passage concerning inheritance as a continuation of the concept of the division of Eretz Israel into ancestral heritages. In response to the claim of Tzlofchad's daughters, grant us an ancestral heritage together with our father's brothers. This is the demand of Tzlofchad. In other words, all of the laws that we read in this week's Torah portion about inheritance, where did it all start? Where did it stem from? A portion in the Holy Land. Tzlofchad's daughter they felt that they were mistreated because their father should have given them a portion. What portion? In Holy Land. They didn't demand financial value. They wanted a section in the Holy Land. Because of their demand of a section in the Holy Land, God is going to give us the law of inheritance, that always the son gets it, and if there is no son, it goes back up in the next generation, future, upwards. Says the Rebbe, with regards to Eretz Israel, to the division of Eretz Israel, in addition to the general concept of dividing the land into ancestral heritages, there are 3 specific concepts involved. Says Rebbe, because the law of inheritance came from the demand about the Holy Land, let's go back to the Holy Land, the way they were receiving portions in the Holy Land. If you look at it in details, it's divided into 3 separate concepts, how every single family received their share in the Holy Land. Number 1, the land of Israel was granted to the nation of Israel as an inheritance and divided into ancestral heritage among the tribe. We call it inheritance. The entire Jewish people received the entire Holy Land. That's one, an inheritance. Before we divide into tribes, just an inheritance, got it. The second one, it was divided according to the patterns to the more populous tribes. You shall give a larger inheritance, and to the less populous tribe, you shall give a smaller inheritance. Now you're going to give a section, a portion, each one according to their needs. So if you have a tribe that requires a large portion, because a lot of numerous populace, numerous number lives, numerous families, you give them a bigger portion. Number three, specifically by lot should the land be divided. Do you understand the three sections? So one is called an inheritance. God gave the entire land as an inheritance to Jewish people. Second is portionate according to their size. So it's portion. A third one is lottery. Lottery. And I spoke Monday night at the Tanya class about lottery, I believe. Lottery, they cast name of tribes and they cast names of leaders of each tribe, and the leader of the tribe will take out from the hat, miraculously it would be his name. He will take out a peg from the other hat, and it will be the section in the Holy Land that belongs to him. So you have the Holy Land received by every single Jew on three levels. One is inheritance. Number two is divided, meaning a section, a specific section belongs to me, to you, to every one of us. And the third one by lot, lottery. And the lottery will tell us what we're going to get. By the way, the lottery work also with the size of each tribe, which was miraculous. In other words, they walk hand in hand. So far, so good. And Harry on Monday night interjected by saying that the lottery themselves spoke. When they open up the notes, it will shout out the words that was said.
I mean, it was rigged.
It was rigged. That I didn't hear.
You might know it in the lottery. Lottery tickets.
I want to stick to the topic because it's so beautiful.
These three item points are general, because then we get involved into the specifics.
No, they are specific.
Why is there-
The entire land is a inheritance.
Right.
That's their land,
Right.
not Lebanon, not
And then,
right.
and then my.
A portion, so you get a bigger section or smaller. The entire tribe. But the idea is that every family would have a place there. And then the lot will tell you, are you in Judea and Samaria? Are you in the north? Are you in the south?
These three items are the general idea about.
For the tribe.
Right.
Okay, so you're making a point. Once the tribe knew where,
Mhm.
and they knew the size of their section, the leaders would sit down and give each one their section. I should tell
That's the
you,
lottery. Huh?
no,
That's not the lottery.
that's the tribe's leader. They receive a section in the Holy Land. Where in the Holy Land and the size of that section are the first two. The lot, all the three. Once they knew that section and the borders, now they have to subdivide it by the families. So each one who entered the Holy Land, each one who left Egypt actually, even if they were dead, received a section. So the children would inherit those who are dead sometimes, and vice versa. I hinted to it. I don't want to talk about it now. Is that clear?
Okay.
Again, the Holy Land is this big. They have to be divided by 12. But it's not fair to cut it evenly because in land, territory, location. Some locations are very small and they are worth much more than large pieces of land. God decided how the 12 portions would be divided, and God decided which part belongs to which tribe. Once they took their lot, the lot would give them the borders of their area, and the lot will tell them the boundaries exactly up to where, from where till where. Now, you have a big section. Let's say you have 100 acres, and you have 500 families. Who gets what? Every family, the leaders of the tribe would decide each family which section within that will get. But that is not an inheritance already.
thought that's
I
what he
just
said.
want to bring up one point. The tribe of Gad did not get a good section. Did not get. They wanted to be on the across on the east side, across, and they when the land was divided, they are the only one who were not receiving a good section. You know, there is other things when they were encamped around the tabernacle. They should have been the leader of that section, of that wing. There are 4 wings, and each wing had 3 tribes, and each 3 tribes had one leader. Yehuda is one, Issachar was another one. They deserved to be the one leader, and they were not, because Yosef and Binyamin, I believe, all received 2. And they did not complain. And they were rewarded for being humble and not making an issue that Moshe wanted to be buried in their section. So Moshe is buried in Mount Nebo, which is outside of Israel, by the way. I drove with Ari on the side of the Jordan Valley, Jordan River, and you can see they call it Nabal Musa, Nabal Mountain in Arabic. Musa is Moshe in Arabic. So the prophet Musa. The Arabs, the Muslims, they call it, that's the name. And is buried in the section of God, which is a great, great reward for them. I want to go back to our discussion. Any questions so far? So again, what we discovered is the Mishnah concludes also the entire book, the entire section of 6 orders with the idea of inheritance, that God will give an inheritance to the righteous man. And in the world to come, just a minute. And the idea of inheritance in this week's Torah portion, which is the source of the law of inheritance, begin with the discussion about getting a part in the Holy Land. Tzlofchad's daughter wanted an inheritance in the Holy Land. So God gives him the law, and God goes on to say that the inheritance in the Holy Land, now we shift into the Holy Land before we return back. The Holy Land's inheritance was given to every Jew on 3 levels. One, as an inheritance, and that was all-encompassing equally to all Jewish people and applied to all of the Holy Land. Second, a section. Each one will receive their own portion, and each tribe their own portion. Some are larger, some are smaller. And third, a lottery. Lottery is totally by God, has nothing to do with humans. Yes, Bob.
Levium did not get property. Where did they?
Who?
Levium.
Levim, but they got 48 cities. So they did get as a gift from the other tribes.
Okay, so they had places.
They had land, yes.
In the territories of the Shvatim.
They got the 6 shelter refuge cities,
Okay.
as well as 42 other cities given to them as a gift by all the tribes. Each tribe, I believe, gave them 42 divided by 12 is how much? 4. No, not by 12, by 11 maybe. Or if you take out the ones from the Jordan River, I believe each tribe gave them four cities. So times 10, it's about
There were only 6 cities where a guy could go to wait for the common girl to die.
what?
There were only 6 cities.
No, every one of the Levite cities are also a refuge city. Yes.
There were
Yes.
only 6.
The difference is that I had to pay rent in those six cities. Those who want to get free rent. In the Levi's place, they have to pay rent, and in addition, there are certain requirements for the refuge cities do not apply to the Levite cities. Another one is if someone is holding by the wall or by a tree whose root is inside the city and the shade goes outside the city, in the 6 cities, it will be included. By the Levi cities that they receive as a gift, it will not. There is other rules, okay? Can we go back to our discussion? Says the Rebbe. It is possible to say, the implication is that in particular, there are 3 ways, 434. There are 3 ways through which the connection between Eretz Israel and the Jewish people is expressed. A, as a heritage. B, a division according to logic. To more populous tribe, you give more, and to smaller, less. And C, division according to a lottery. So again, you have three levels: heritage, like an inheritance, logic, based on your need, based on your size of the tribe, and three, lottery, defies logic. Says the Rebbe, just like the Holy Land is called God's heritage, so are the Jewish people called God's heritage. And therefore, God connected the Jewish people with the Holy Land. But the connection is on three levels. What's the important, why is it so important about the three levels? And the rabbi goes on to prayer. Every morning we say all three. Says the Rebbe, on top of page 435, we find that there are three expressions of the Jews' bond with God, as we say in our preliminary morning prayers. Ashreinu Matov. Every morning we thank God for our connection to God, and we thank God on three levels, the same three levels we just discussed. We are fortunate. How good is our portion? How pleasant is our lot? And how beautiful is our inheritance? Ashreinu matov chelkeinu. Chelkeinu is our portion. Umanayim goroleinu. How awesome is our lot? Umayafa, how beautiful our Yerushatenu is our inheritance. Right? We say it every morning. Those three, says the Rebbe, it's not just poetry. It's not a poem. It's for a purpose. Each one is important. Likewise, there are three ways of describing the manner in which God granted Eretz Yisrael to the Jews as a portion, a lot, and an inheritance. So therefore, when God gives the Jewish people, he gives them a portion, a lot, and an inheritance. When we bond with God, we bond on all three levels. That's why we say every morning in the prayer. These three expressions, a portion, a lot, and an inheritance, follow an order. The rabbi is going now to another step. There is an order and a priority, and the last one is the most important, implying a pattern of successive ascent. Since how beautiful is our inheritance is the last, inheritance comes last. First is portion, second is lot, and the third is inheritance. Says the Rebbe, it can be understood that an inheritance possesses a deeper and superior dimension than the other two expressions. And clarification thus is necessary. A, what's the difference between the three? And then the Rebbe is asking another question. How can you say God is our inheritance? Inheritance happens when someone dies. You cannot inherit. You can gift somebody. Portion is a gift. Lottery is something that we all agree, two people agree, they're going to divide this room, this orange, and they're going to take lottery. I understand, my inheritance can only apply when the person dies. How can you say that I am God's inheritance? The idea of inheritance don't begin unless the person who is giving the inheritance is not around. As long as I'm alive, my children cannot have an inheritance. I can give them, I can do a lottery and divide something among them, but I cannot give them the inheritance. So A, says the Rebbe, the priority must be important. And why is inheritance the third one? First is portion, second is lottery, third is inheritance. Second one, how can you apply to God an inheritance? Mayafa Yerushatenu, how beautiful is our inheritance from God. God cannot inherit something. God can gift, God can sell. You understand the question, right? Here is the answer. So the Rebbe is going to leave now inheritance out. Let's talk about lottery and portion. Says the Rebbe, in general, the difference between portion or lottery is the difference between an exchange of sale or an exchange of gifts. You have two ways in which I can give you something or you can receive something from me. One is I'm selling you. I sell you my car. I sell you my computer, my book. How do we do that? You pay or you give me something in exchange, and by doing so, you became the owner of the good. Lottery is compared to a gift. What's the difference? What is a gift? A gift, I'm gifting you without you giving me anything. I'm gifting it to you because I like you, because you did something, because it's your birthday, etc. What's the core? That's a Talmudic understanding. The core, the distinction between gift and sale, in both, the good is moved. My phone, if I gift it to you or I sell it to you, it was mine. If it's not mine, I cannot gift it to you and I cannot sell it to you. Now it belongs to you, the recipient, the buyer. What's the difference, says the Rebbe? In a Kabbalistic terminology, we call it who is transpiring the final part of the transaction. Who is responsible for closing the circle of moving from one to the other? When it comes to sale, it is me paying, the buyer giving money. If the buyer did not give money by Jewish law, he didn't buy it. So we can have a lot of talk. We can have a lot of agreements. As long as you didn't pay for the phone, even though it's in your possession, it's not yours. Legally, it's mine. So who is the one who is going to make it yours or move from one to the other? The buyer. By gift, you don't need the buyer's agreement. It's the giver, the presenter. I, from the kindness of my heart, want you to have my phone. I have nothing else to do, and I chose you. You have a birthday. Do I need you to agree or to do anything? The answer is no. All you have to do is actually to agree. Against your will, we cannot do it. But there is the one who closes the circuit and make a complete transaction from one to the other. Who does it?
Giver.
The giver. Because if the giver was coerced to do it, it's not a gift.
But there's no lottery involved.
We didn't talk about lottery yet.
Right.
No, we do. Says the Rebbe that lottery is the same as a gift. I want to give something. I want to give something to one of you two, and I'm not sure to whom, because both of you have found favor in my eyes. So I decide to make a lottery. You pick one. You pick one. One is empty. The other one has a name phone, and by lottery, I'm going to give it to you. So who is the one who is gifting? It's the seller. It's the giver, the gifter. Do you understand that? Deeper into Kabbalah, we call it itaruta deletata, awakening from the bottom, or itaruta deleela, awakening from above. When it comes to selling something, it is all about the buyer, the recipient. He has to come up with the money and give it. He's the one who closed the circuit. By gifting, it's all about the giver. So, in the relationship between us and God, God is, we call it above, and we are below, down here. What is the one that is going to make us connected? You have one way in which I do a mitzvah. It's like paying cash. I study Torah. That's called itaruta deletata. The connection, we need to have a electricity transfer. We need to have a connection with God. A gift, a sale, which is portion, is only because I do the mitzvot. God is kind to me, connected, listens to me, blesses me. There is another way where God comes regardless of my behavior and conduct. God likes me. Why? I'm his child. I don't respect. I do not do what he asked. He asked me to be a doctor and I didn't. I failed my test. It doesn't matter. But he still loves me. So he's going to give me a gift on my birthday. So that's from above. When do we see that? When you have miracles, when you have holidays. Hanukkah, they were not deserving. Majority of Jews became like the Greeks. But God was kind enough to them to show miracles. Just recently, the miracles that we saw with the war with Iran, impossible to fathom. It's from above. It's considered like a gift. God gifted us. It's a gift beyond our imagination. Because if I had to pay for it, if I have to earn it with my good deeds and study, it wouldn't be enough. Right, Harry? You can't do it. So my relationship with God, between me and God, can be in one way like selling something or buying something, where I come with cash and I say to God, give me health, give me family, give me happiness, give me success, give me what I need, and I'm paying for it. How do you pay? With good deeds. That's called itaruta deletata. We are the one to initiate the relationship. There is times where God said, I love you so much, I want to give it to you. So he's not looking at what we offer, and he's not asking for anything in return. It's a gift. A gift. It's not an inheritance, it's a lottery.
Okay.
It's a gift. The gift is regardless of my conduct, I'm going to receive the gift because God is the one who initiates. Do you understand it too? Says the Rebbe, that all applies to a gift or selling, which is a portion or lottery. An inheritance is a whole different dimension. You know what an inheritance is? An inheritance, there is no transfer from one to the other. The child, the next in kin, stand in the spot of the one who gives it, or who owns it, is not giving. Therefore, I don't have to acquire it. There are many legal ramifications. For example, one example I just shared, let me explain. In the Jewish law, if I buy something, I have to acquire it. I have to move it. I have to put it in my possession. Gifting also. I cannot gift you something unless you accept by lifting it or receiving it. Inheritance, you don't have to do anything. With Jewish law, the next in kin becomes the legal owner without doing anything. Mm-hmm. If I want to buy a piece of property, I want to buy a car, there are requirements. I have to pay. In addition, I have to acquire it, drive the car, move it to my possession. Otherwise, I'm not the owner yet. Inheritance, if that car belongs to the father, my father is gone, he owned the car, I am the next in kin. If there are more than one son or children, then that has to be divided. But if there is one child, make it simple, the child don't have to acquire because there was nothing, that's the key. Nothing was moved from one domain to another. Nothing was moved from one person to another. The next in kin stand in the space of the one who gives the inheritance. That's the uniqueness of an inheritance. Do you understand that? Says the Rebbe, that's why when we thank God, Ashreinu, great, lucky we are. Matov chelkeinu, how great is our portion. Umanaim goraleinu, and how pleasant is our lot. Those two talk about selling, buying, transaction, or gifting, transaction. Umayafa yerushastenu, how beautiful is our inheritance. Is we call that my connection to God. We ascend up and higher into the level of an inheritance where we represent God. We are God in this universe. So God don't have to give us anything as a gift. We don't have to buy anything from God by paying for it. We represent God. Therefore, we are lucky because God is there. It's God. We are God. Did you understand that? Says the Rebbe. Because of that, we can understand that the Jewish people have all three levels at various periods. And here is the division. This is what going to close this topic. There is a point before God gave us the Torah. There is a point from God giving us the Torah until Messianic era. And then there is the Messianic era. Before God gave us the Torah, who can be Jewish? Those who committed themselves to God. Abraham was Jewish. What do you mean Jewish? Obey God and put himself under God's rulership. What happened to his son Ishmael? He chose not to be Jewish. Therefore, in other words, the relationship is from below. Anyone choose to be Jewish had to pay for it cash. Serve God. If you don't serve God, you're not Jewish. When God gave us the Torah, He chose us. Choosing is like lottery. Choosing is from God's point of view. We didn't choose God. God chose us. It's like giving us a gift. In other words, now you get it regardless if you choose to serve God or not. You don't have to pay anything. You are Jewish by means of being chosen by God. Because God likes us and He chose the Jewish people. Do you understand the first two? But Messianic era would be an inheritance. The Messianic era, there would be no transfer from God to the Jewish people. The first two periods, there are two entities. And the first one is, I come closer to God by serving God. When God gave us the Torah, what happened? God came down on Mount Sinai. He's gifting us, He's giving us, and He chose us. And now if we disobey God, we're still chosen by God. That's lottery. That's a gift. But then the third one, which is an inheritance, is the time of Mashiach. Messianic era, God will be here, represented by us. We will be in a revealed way God's representatives. In other words, there is no transaction, no transferring from one entity to the other. That's the Messianic era. Says the Rebbe, now we can understand many, many things. Why does Rambam conclude the 248 commandments with the law of inheritance? Because it's the ultimate of serving God. Inheritance represent, in the Kabbalistic terminology, the last deed in which God and the Jewish people will connect. That doesn't exist until Mashiach comes. In other words, it will happen only after we serve God in all 248 commandments. Why Rambam chooses, why the Mishnah concludes the 6 orders of Mishnah with an inheritance? Because the conclusion of the Torah is the ultimate time where there is an inheritance, not selling, not gifting the Jewish people, and not a transaction of buying and selling, but rather we stand instead of God. Now we can understand why Rambam, when he's choosing to give us the source of inheritance, he's choosing the verse in this week's Torah portion, if a man dies and he has no son. We ask the question, if a man dies and he has no son, is the extreme, is very few. It's the exception. The rule, the law of inheritance is when a father and there is a son. So that's the whole idea of inheritance, that there is no son, because it's God himself is here. There is no moving. The ultimate expression of inheritance is a person dies and he has no son, because the next in kin is God himself, is the Father himself that continues. Therefore, Rambam chose the source of inheritance, the law of inheritance, with the verse, if a man dies and he has no son. By the way, the Rebbe is not addressing, but it's obvious. That's why the Torah, when they begin the law of inheritance, begins with the exception, with the unusual case. A man dies and he has no son. Because from a Kabbalah point of view, it represents the true, deepest understanding of what inheritance is, that there is no transaction, but the children are in the foot instead of their parents. And that's how we continue living, by making sure that the inheritance go to the next generation. I hope I made myself clear.
Well, I think
Sei gesund, good Shabbos.